Hey, everybody, I'm the Ranting Monkey, and with me, as always, is Scribe. Say hi, Scribe.
Hi, Scribe.
And this is one of our movies you should have watched from the 1980s buddy cop thingy. Is that a good description?
Thingy. Yeah, so Running Scared predates Lethal Weapon for interracial buddy cop movie by like 5 or 6 years or something.
I don't think it's that much. When did Lethal
No,
Weapon come out?
when was Lethal Weapon 89? Maybe it was 89. Yeah, maybe it's only 3 years.
Yeah, of course, I look it up and it brings up the TV show. Like that matters. Lethal Weapon was 87, so only by a year.
Oh, only a year. Okay. Well, this might have been one of those examples where, I was thinking about this the other day. You've seen this with Dante's Peak and Volcano, Deep Impact, and Armageddon, where you have two movies of similar elements coming out around the same time as each other, because somebody will be shopping a script for one thing, the rumor will get out that Studio X is making this movie, so another studio will start making their own version to try to compete with that on the chance that they might make some money off of it. I don't know if this was the case in the case of Running Scared, but it does seem interesting because that seems to be a pattern that happens.
I did read something interesting about Running Scared is when they when it was first pitched, they actually wanted it written as two old guys who were about to retire.
Oh, okay. Which nobody would go watch because two old guys isn't fun to watch.
Yeah, and it was the director who insisted, no, let's make it two young guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Peter Hines.
Unlike the last.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
All right.
Let's say, unlike the last two movies that we went over, this one didn't have the production issues.
Yeah. Or at least
from all accounts, Billy Crystal and Gregory Hines got along well, and it really comes through in this movie.
Yeah. Now, I mean, for everything else about this movie that we could say, the chemistry between these two guys is just natural. I mean, I mean, if either one of two things happen, either they rehearsed up the yin yang beforehand, or they just got along so well and just had such a natural flow with each other that it just comes across on the screen. I am curious how much of this movie was improv versus scripted.
That would be a wonderful thing to know.
Yeah.
But I couldn't find anything on it. But this movie really defines the genre. It really does if you stop and look at everything that it is. Mm-hmm. From the quick quips to the over-the-top action. If you like these kind of movies, I think it's a great one to watch, even though I think it's probably more dated than any of the others.
Yeah, that definitely comes through. And like I said, every element of this movie you can see in all of its quote unquote spiritual children. Between now, except the lack of animosity between the two main characters, because in almost every other buddy cop movie or partner movie or whatever, you set up some conflict to keep the tension going between them, and then they have to like learn to get along, and there's all that other stuff. They don't even deal with that. These guys are practically family, and it really comes through on that. It's also interesting, this movie, I didn't even notice until just now, this movie made almost $39 million back in 1986.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. This movie could not have cost more than $2 or $3 million to make, if that. I'd be surprised.
What you were talking about there with the animosity between the main characters, the closest we get to it is actually more of a family thing. Like it starts out with the basketball game.
Yeah, so let's just go chronologically here. So it's an MGM movie. We get the lion, then we get some.
Wait. Oh yeah. We're going chronologically. This belongs at the beginning. They do something here that so many 80s movies did that pisses me off.
What's that?
If you put the video in and press play, it takes 2 minutes and 24 seconds to get to the fucking story.
Yeah, we get really cheesy movie title synthesizer rock song, and we get basically establishing B-roll shots of Chicago skyline with the credits playing over them forever.
Yep.
Yeah.
We saw this in Trading Places. It was in Beverly Hills Cop movie. It's in so many 80s movies. I just fucking hated it.
You know which movie we watched that didn't do that?
The Last Boy Scout.
Tango and Cash.
Oh yeah, Tango didn't.
Yeah, Tango and Cash didn't have anything until the very end. But yeah, I think maybe they learned their lesson from that, because when you have an action comedy movie, you want to get right into it. You don't want to have to sit there for 20 minutes and wait for something else to happen. Right. So anyway, our synthesizer music and our Chicago skyline. Yes, we know it's Chicago. Thank you, movie. It's Chicago. And then we're at the basketball game, I think.
Yep, starts out at the basketball game with they're waiting for somebody, and Danny, played by Billy Crystal, really wants to go join this street basketball game, and Gregory Hines's Ray keeps telling him, leave the game alone.
Mm-hmm.
And then the ball accidentally gets kicked their way, and Billy Crystal picks it up and decides he's going to go play.
Yeah, and tiny midget Billy Crystal. I mean, the first thing was like, okay, this is obviously a fantasy film because Billy Crystal is trying to play basketball against some gigantic men.
Yes, and he's holding his own when he does play, but you get to see the only real animosity between these two with Ray's face as he's like, I don't want to play, dude. I don't want to do this. And he's finally, oh, all right, fuck it. This is my partner. I'm gonna go hang with him.
A black man doesn't want to play basketball?
No, there is a great part of this scene where Gregory Hines is drinking out of a bottle that's wrapped in a paper bag.
Right. Yes.
And he puts the bottle down when he goes to play basketball, and two bums come pick it up. And one of them takes a swig of it and spits it out immediately, pulls it out, and it's not alcohol, it's a Pepsi.
Right. And this is, so if you had no idea what kind of movie you're watching in the first place, you might have an inkling that these two guys are not just guys standing on the street. They might be plainclothes policemen or something.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, I don't know why they did that. I mean, it's almost as if, okay, they assume the audience is going to have no idea what kind of movie they're watching. I guess that's
True.
sort of a nod to no reason, I guess. I don't know.
I think it was purely for humorous effect.
Sure.
And there's so much of that in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Little things that you've only seen it, once?
I watched it all the way through once, and I skimmed through bits of it earlier today just to refresh myself.
Real quick, what was your impression?
Well, I mean, I'm ruined by the fact that I've never seen this movie, and I have seen all of its spawn in the last 3 decades. So looking back on it, like I said, the elements are all. I mean, then they were new-ish, or at least a new concept. Now, to me, they're old hat. So everything felt very familiar, and it was really hard for me to sort of get into it because it just, it's kind of the reverse formulaic thing. You see the harbinger of so many things that have been done to, higher degrees of quality over the years. It's kind of hard to go backwards. Sort of like playing an old video game. Or an old RPG with really bad UI or something. That didn't detract from. I mean, that was something I couldn't escape while I was watching it. But the humor, the setting, the fashion. I mean, we'll get to the fashion. Jesus Christ, when they go down to Key West. Oh my God.
Oh my God. Yes.
Oh boy, we'll get there. But I mean, it had a certain amount of nostalgia because, like I said, and I mentioned this before the stream, the only exposure I had ever had to this film prior to last week was the Michael McDonald music video for the movie, where Gregory Hines and Billy Crystal, they don't just show clips from the movie in the music video. Gregory Hines and Billy Crystal are in the music video. And when I watched the video as a kid, I didn't know what was what at the time. I don't know what scenes were from the movie or whatever else. So when these scenes came up and the characters were there, it all felt very familiar, even though I'd never seen it before. And I like Billy Crystal. I like Gregory Hines. Their rapport with one another, just the ease with which they interacted. So anyway, long story short, I enjoyed it, but I was ruined by the amount of time since it was made, I suppose.
Here's my take on this, and Granted, I saw this when I didn't see it at the theater, but again, when it first came out on video, I watched it pretty much immediately. I love most of the movies that have come after it, but to me, this is still the crown jewel.
Okay.
Just the amount of just silly little humorous stuff they threw in, as well as the parts that they played straight, like when they find out the guy on the building was a cop.
Right.
Suddenly they're like, "Sorry, Captain, we'll get on it right now."
Yeah, that's something that as we go through this, I'll probably comment on. It's just I understood what they were trying to do, and I understand it is an old 80s movie, etc. But the shifts in tone and seriousness of the material was something that kind of was a bit jarring to me in places, but we'll get to that as we go.
So back to the basketball game. They join the basketball game briefly, and suddenly a Mercedes shows up.
Apparently the only Mercedes in Chicago.
Well, Billy Crystal makes a comment here because he says we should arrest them, and Gregory Hines asks what for, and he goes, having a car like that in this neighborhood is probable cause.
Yeah, okay, right.
So it's a rundown neighborhood, and it at least, draws somebody's attention to see a car like that in that neighborhood.
Well, later on, it's like everybody who's anybody sees this car and they automatically know who owns it. I don't know, it just seems a little odd to me, but whatever. Okay, sure. Seem more like a 50s kind of mentality. Like, you got a very small cloistered neighborhood and somebody's driving the fire red T-Bird or something. Like everybody knows whose car that is, that kind of thing. Mass production 1980s doesn't really seem like the same thing, but I'm getting too deep into it. What do I know?
Well, no, it's not just that. I think at the time, if we go back to 85, 86, I know in my neighborhood, a car like that would definitely stick out. And if he's the local drug dealer, So this is where we first see Snake. He gets out of the car. Snake, played by Joe
Pantoliano.
Thank you, Pantoliano. Who's obviously gone on to bigger and better things. He was in Matrix, and
he had. I mean, looking at him then, save for the hair, guy, he hasn't aged a day. And I look at him, and I just mentally erase his hair, and I'm like, he might have just walked onto the set of the Matrix the next day after this, because God, the guy ages her very well.
And they're wondering who the other guy in the car is. Who's the driver? And who's the driver? Jimmy Smits.
Jimmy Smits.
Who also
Victor Cifuentes.
Gone on to bigger and better things himself. But in this movie, he played our drug dealer, Julio Gonzalez. And
so they see him, and then they go like, hey, that's Julio Gonzalez. Didn't we just put him away? And like, what's he doing out? And then he sees them and recognizes them. And so he jumps back in the car. He says, give me the briefcase and get back in the car to Snake. And then he just beats feet out of there and leaves Snake behind with the briefcase.
Yes, he does, like, which turns out to have $50,000 in it.
$50,000. Yeah, so they chase Snake back to his crappy little apartment. And this is where we first get to see them acting like the super cops that we learn them to be as they are. And they basically shake down Snake in his apartment for like the $50,000 and what is he doing with it and all that other fun stuff.
This is actually one of my favorite parts of the movie. I'm going to say that so many times because I fucking love this movie. They tell Snake that they got to take him in because they know this is dirty money. They can't prove it yet. They don't have any reason to arrest him.
Probable cause, what?
So what Billy Crystal does is goes outside on the balcony and announces to everybody who was just playing that game that they're now part of a neighborhood watch. And that Snake has $50,000 in unmarked bills, tax-free, that they need to help him watch. Which causes Snake to freak out. It's like, you got to arrest me now. We don't have any reason to. So he punches Gregory Hines.
Right, yeah.
So he gets arrested for assaulting a police officer. And this is another great scene in the movie because he's actually trying to hit Billy Crystal, who ducks out of the way to let his partner take the hit. And so then they what is the next part? They
take him down to the station. And
Not yet. Not yet.
no.
Nope. They take him down to the first flight of stairs where they have their cigar. And that's where we find out Billy Crystal has to go see Aunt Rose.
Oh, yes. The funeral.
Yeah. So they go to the funeral, and Aunt Rose is very important.
Oh, wait. Don't we have the, before they get there, don't we have the jumper? They find the body of the jumper?
Oh, you're right. Yeah. That's where they remember that they decide to go check out Julio's apartment.
Right.
And when they get there, there's a jumper on the ground. His body's all wet and he's not wearing shoes. And it seems like a throwaway at first. It really does.
Yeah, it really confused me because I was like, okay, this is a lot happening all at once. What does this all have to do with anything?
Yeah. And that's where we find out, oh God, what time is it? We got to go see Aunt Rose, and it's Aunt Rose's funeral. And we meet Billy Crystal's ex-wife for the first time,
who has a very odd role in this film because she's important, but not important enough for him to be faithful to, even though they broke up. And then she's the damsel at the end of the movie. It's very weird. The women, the female love interests in this movie are very temporary.
Yeah. There's a great relationship between Billy's ex-wife and Gregory Hines. He obviously still loves her, and this is his partner, so he should hate the bitch,
right?
Just on principle, but he obviously still cares about her. And there's a scene in the police station where Billy says that he's better off without her, and he's like, "No, you're not." But yeah, it's there's so many at the beginning, and there's so many things that seem like throwaway moments, but they bring most of them back. They tie up all loose ends eventually.
Yeah. So after they go to Aunt Rose's funeral, I don't remember if anything really interesting happened at the funeral other than we just learned about Aunt Rose and all that other fun stuff.
Yes.
And this is the vehicle by which Billy will inherit money, but we get there later.
The great thing that happens here is when they're leaving the funeral, they get jumped by two muggers.
Right. With one of them's got like a zip gun. This really crappy looking, like homemade gun.
And the other one's just carrying a little 22. And we really get to see these two as they are as police officers. In the face of these two guys pointing guns at them, they're cracking jokes. They arrest them when they don't even have their guns pulled yet.
Well, no, they run away and they get into a muscle car. I mean, these bum-looking muggers have like an expensive, like what was it, a Ford Mustang or something?
Yeah, it was a nice car for the time.
Yeah, and then they shoot at the back of the windows, and none of the muggers are shot. It's just
before they get there. When the guys are holding the guns on them, like Billy Crystal starts reading them their rights.
Right.
Like one of the rights he reads them is that they have the right to the beverage of their choice from the vending machine at the station.
That's right.
They don't take any of this danger seriously.
Right.
Those two guys run off, jump in the muscle car, and they start to take off, but they have to turn around because a truck blocks their way. So they start coming back at Billy Crystal and Gregory Hines, who then open fire on the car.
Right, and they don't. Even though they shoot the windshield at places where it should have gone straight through these guys' heads, they don't hit them.
No, they don't kill them. But we have the argument of which one of them is a shitty shot. Because Gregory Hines looks at Billy. I can't believe you missed all 6 shots. Which comes back again. Again, they tie that, or they play with that one later too. But then we get down to the station, and as soon as they get there, Gregory Hines gets served with with court papers because he's being sued for
excessive force, I think it was.
Yeah, violating a dude's rights.
Yeah, we also meet the captain, played by Dan Hedaya, who is a very well-known character actor. He's probably more well-known, at least by our generation, as Carla's love interest on Cheers, if you watch Cheers. Yep. But yeah, no, Dan Hedaya was there, and he plays the long-suffering captain to these two guys and kind of sets the mold for the angry captain, like, you guys are loose cannons and I can't take it anymore, and then that kind of thing. Not so much, not as over the top as later iterations would be, but yeah, he's the cantankerous captain, the supervisor of these two guys.
Yep. Where do we go from there? I forget the next scene.
Let's see now. So then we suddenly, I mean, like really jarringly, we're suddenly in a bar with Mary Ann. And Mary Ann, who is Gregory Hines's love interest. I was thinking about this today. The sexual dynamics in this movie seem a lot more like 60s, 70s free love philosophy than it does seem, what we would consider today to be more appropriate or something, or more, understandable. Does that make sense to you?
It does, but again, this is an 80s movie where the rules don't necessarily apply. I mean, they just shot somebody for running away from them.
Yeah. So we're at a bar where he's talking to Mary Ann, some lady that just appeared out of nowhere. And then all of a sudden, after talking there and joking around for a second, we're cut to Ray's apartment and they're in bed. I'm like, okay.
You know what is weird about that though? We didn't see any sex.
No, just them sort of.
It's all implied, which is weird for that time frame. It really is. We should have seen titties or something.
Well, we do see a couple of butts over the course of the film, but nothing.
We get to see her ass there,
yes.
And she has a nice ass.
Yeah, no, So yeah, they get to they're at Ray's place, and then Danny shows up in the middle of them, like sort of snuggling in the morning, and I forget exactly why he came over, just to bug him or something. And then
other partners, he brought donuts.
Yeah, and then she gets up and carries a blanket to cover her front, but doesn't cover her back as she goes to the bathroom. And they just both watch her go by, like, oh.
Now there's one weird part about this. He has a police motorcycle in his house,
in his apartment, his loft apartment. Yeah, which is why.
I guess.
Yeah. So then we're back at the station after this.
Yes.
And then Danny's ex-wife shows up to, I guess, gloat, but not. It was really. Danny's ex-wife is a child. She acts like a 7-year-old. It's like, oh, I'm getting remarried to a dentist, and aren't you jealous? Aren't you jealous? That's kind of what I took from that whole conversation.
You also have to remember the context of the time frame here.
Mm-hmm.
He's paying alimony to her, and if she gets remarried, he gets to stop paying that.
Right.
So them having the conversation makes sense. Her doing it there makes no goddamn sense.
Yeah, and she's like trying to shame him, like I'm marrying a dentist who's much better than you are. It's like, okay, and I'm like, and I'm thinking,
at least he's a grown up.
At least he's a grown up. And I'm thinking, why would you want to get back with this woman? I never, from that point onward, I never understood, like, okay, maybe you don't hate her. Maybe she's not like dragon lady of your life or something. And of course we have a bit more of a dramatic scene with them later. But at this point in the movie, I'm thinking, this is not someone I would want to spend any time with if they're trying to like demean me down to nothing after I've been like paying alimony and was married to them for God knows how long beforehand. Just like, huh?
I think it was supposed to come off a little different. Like she was actually, trying to make him jealous so he would show he cared, almost like
that
in The Last Boy Scout at the beginning there, that scene, call me a slut,
it didn't come across like that to me though. It sounded childish. It sounded like it just mean spirited. It didn't sound like please tell me you still love me and that you're willing to fight for me kind of. I didn't get that from the actress, so maybe that's
again, I think it's what they were going for and they kind of missed. And the reason I say that's what I think they were going for was the end of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Which we will get to, and we can come back to this there. But so another lawyer shows up, and this time they want Danny instead of Ray.
Right.
And Danny wants to talk to his wife, so he asks Ray, "Hey, can you, Ray being Gregory Hines, would you buy me a little bit of time?" And he sends the lawyer off to chase him while he has a conversation with his wife.
Mm-hmm.
The lawyer eventually tracks down Ray, thinking it's Danny, and gives him paperwork, which turns out to be a $40,000 check from the inheritance Aunt Rose left him.
Mm-hmm. Which is more money than he's ever seen at one time in his entire life, kind of thing.
Yeah, and to give you some perspective, I actually looked this up. That turns out to be about $90,000 in today's terms.
Yeah, not bad.
Not a bad chunk of change.
There's one little thing that happens somewhere just after this. The camera's panning and to establish where we are in, I believe, in the homicide department. And there's a sign that says "Homicide. Our day begins when yours ends." And I started laughing my ass off when I saw it. I was like, "Oh, that's now that is the kind of thing you would see in a homicide office to try to keep the gallows humor going."
Oh yeah, we saw some of the gallows humor with the jumper too, with him and with Ray and not Ray, with Danny and the beat cop there, with the little back and forth, and there's some of that throughout the movie.
So they will go down to homicide to check out what happened with the jumper.
Yes,
and they find out, well, the jumper actually died from drowning, not from falling off a building. And it turns out that the jumper was actually a cop named Alan Jackson.
Yeah, and there's a great line from the cat here. They go, "Southside detective." What's
whoa, you're
detective
way whoa, you're way roboting, or am I roboting?
Oh, probably me. Are we better?
Oh no, you're garbled as hell to me.
You're coming through clear to me, so it's me.
Oh man, no, this is choppy, horrible. I don't know if the chat's hearing it. I don't know if there's enough people paying attention right now, but I can't barely understand what you're saying.
Is it better?
No. I can make out the syllables, but yeah.
But okay, well, if you can, keep running it down, and I'll join. I can.
You're gonna have to log out and come back, dude. I can't understand you. Yeah. Sorry, guys. This is the perils of live television, so to speak. Let's see here. Let's see if Monkey can get back here. Yeah. Yep. Monkey hit a speed bump on the information superhighway, so we'll get there soon. I'm thinking we're going to do maybe Under Siege next, because we both have that on the collection DVD that we had that brought us Tango and Cash. So I'm thinking we'll do Under Siege as our next movie outing, because I haven't seen that in years, and that was always a favorite when I was a kid. It's probably pretty lousy now. Let's see. I've got like another page and a half worth of notes on this movie. I took a lot of notes because, like I said, I'd never seen it before now, so to speak, and lots of interesting little tidbits to keep an eye on. We're going to have to rush through them, though. First Cynic says Turner and Hooch. No. Liverbird, Erica Leniak topless. Yes, that is one of the highlights of that film, especially when I was a little kid. Man, Playboy Playmate, Erica Leniak. Can you guys still hear me? I don't even know. I don't know what happens if Monkey drops out for too long. It might kill the entire stream. So if you can still hear me, let me know in the chat. Otherwise, I might have to give up the ghost on this one. Let's see. Turner Hooch. Scribe, you ever seen Mississippi Burning? Says Snubberth. Yes, I've seen Mississippi Burning. Actually, I think I own a copy on VHS somewhere in my collection. I watched it again a few years ago, and it was... it's weird to say. It kind of had a bit too upbeat a portrayal of certain elements of that entire situation and era. It's still a really good movie. I still like Gene Hackman and Willem Dafoe and everything, but I don't know. The FBI came off a bit too superhero than I think they should have in some places. But
is this any better?
It is better. I can understand what you're saying.
Oh, thank you.
You were just off in La La Land robot-wise, so I don't know where you left off, but I had said about the jumper drowning instead of falling off a building.
Yep, and from there we go to them trying to get Snake to work with them.
Right. They threaten to hold his money back because it is, they have to release the money to him, but then they find excuses to hold it back from him unless he decides to wear a wire and go talk to Julio Gonzalez. Julio. So they berate him into doing this. And then they're off to the docks, the giant freighter.
Yes, where the deal is going down.
Yeah, Snake is helping some guy move "quote unquote" television sets out of a truck onto this freighter, I guess. And then, yeah,
they think that Julio is buying drugs, and it turns out that in those television boxes, there's actually Uzis.
Yes, yeah, like Mac-10 little Uzis and everything.
Yeah, and so they go onto the ship to try to save Snake, who sounds like he's in trouble, only to find him standing there holding the wire for everybody to see.
Yep.
And once again, we see them in the face of complete danger, should be dead, cracking jokes, which is one of the things I really love about this fucking movie, is that they never stop having fun. And they sell it really well because of the chemistry between them.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm still curious. Like, did they write their own jokes ahead of time? Was how many takes did they do of this? How much was ad lib? I assume that some of it had to be, because Billy Crystal's an improv kind of guy. So, but anyway, so they see an opening to try to fight, and then Gregory Hines does something that, now, for those of you that don't know, Gregory Hines, in addition to being an actor, is also a professional dancer. Like, he is a super duper dancer. Gregory Hines does a high kick that would probably put Bruce Lee to shame.
Oh yeah, that's before they actually get to Snake. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was amazed. I was like, whoa, that was a great move. I didn't expect that from Gregory Hines in this movie. But yeah, he never does anything like that again in the entire film. But that one move was really cool.
Yeah, kicked a dude square in the face who was standing upright.
But then there's suddenly this, they're ambushed, and Julio Gonzalez blows Snake away with an Uzi.
Yep.
He just like rips it open.
Has one of his guys do it.
Well, yeah, but now was I incorrect? Because I could have sworn. So what we don't know at this moment when this ambush happens is that two of the guys with Julio Gonzalez are actually undercover cops. Did one of the undercover cops kill Snake, or was it one of the other goons? Because one of the other guys. Okay,
the problem is
they
all kind of look the same. They all have beards. They all have long hair and are all wearing knit caps.
Because I thought that can't be the case. It couldn't have been the undercover cop that killed him. But yeah, they didn't do much in that, because the lighting in that scene is all red. They've got that red sort of emergency lighting thing going on. I couldn't distinguish one guy from another in the background. So maybe that's what led to my confusion.
But so they're obviously going to die, and it turns out, two of the guys are undercover cops. A firefight ensues where the two of them just drop to the ground to stay down, and we find out that the two cops that are there have been working on this for 6 months, and Billy and Gregory just blew the whole fucking thing, because they were so desperate to get Julio. There's a chase that goes on as they try to track down Julio, and sure enough, in the end, Gregory and Billy find Julio hiding in a cargo crate or some shit like that. I forget where exactly he's hiding.
Yeah, he was hiding under a tarp, I think, or something like that. I forget, something like that. But they notice him, and they just pull him out and arrest him.
So the next scene we see is them talking about kind of what just happened, and the captain orders them to take a vacation.
Yeah, he's like, you guys are too hot. You're making too much trouble. It's time for you to take a forced vacation, because, well, the thing is that by them doing what they did, by forcing Snake into wearing the wire and everything, they ruined a much longer investigation going on. That's why those two undercover cops were there. And so in order to let the heat die down on that embarrassment, he says, okay, you guys are going on forced vacation. So there's some other like operation in place. Now, the thing that kind of boggled me was, well, usually in those situations, or in the movies that you would see later on in the world, they would have been infringing on like a federal investigation. Because if Snake and Julio what didn't make any sense to me was if Snake was a known quantity as being part of Julio Gonzalez's gang, but the Chicago Police Department were also running a long-term undercover operation on the guy, why didn't they have Danny and Ray in on that ahead of time so they didn't fuck it up? That's what I didn't quite. That didn't make any sense to me. So I was confused as to why the undercover guys were police and not feds. But anyway,
the only thing that I can make sense of there would be that Danny and Ray didn't even realize he was out of prison.
Yeah.
When they saw him at the Mercedes was the first time they realized he'd even been released.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, in that regard, I could see it. But yeah, you're right. Normally it would be a federal investigation in one of these movies, you know, and the local cops and the feds having a back and forth.
Yeah. And then, so, poof, we're...
Hello?
Hello?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah. All I heard was poof, and then it was, I had dead silence.
I said, poof, we're suddenly in Key West.
Yes, we are. And we have a great montage of the,
oh man, do we have a montage?
Yeah, they're just having fun in the Key West sun.
Yeah, Danny meets some girl named Julie at sunset because they're all watching the sunset. Oh, look at the sunset. Isn't it beautiful just watching it? And they're kind of like, well, it happens every day. It's like, yeah, but it's so beautiful. And then we cut to them at a bonfire where he's making out with Julie girl who we know.
Okay, now you're roboting.
Oh, great. Okay, well, I'll come back.
For fuck's sake. Guys, I am so sorry. This is not how this is supposed to go. Yeah. So he'll be back here in a second. What he was saying is that Danny hooks up with this Julie chick. One of the things said at the bonfire is that, yeah, he says the sun sets every day. And she goes, we watch it every day. Are you back?
Testing.
I could barely hear you. Say again. Oh, God damn it. Midnight Next, I'll know I'm not connected via Wi-Fi. I am hardlined. But yeah, they have a conversation when we see this whole montage, and they have their little existential crisis, and then they're in a bar talking about
testing.
Okay, I can hear you better now.
Okay, am I roboting?
Nope, sound good for the moment.
Okay, so I'm not sure where we left off, but I was saying that yes, they go to Key West. They're watching the sunset with some people, and Danny meets a girl named Julie, and then we cut to a bonfire where they're suddenly making out, and then, as far as I can recall, we never see Julie again. She just kind of poofs.
No, she was just a little piece of ass on the side.
Yeah.
Next, we go to them being at a bar, and Danny decides he's going to buy a bar.
Well, no, we also get we also get the fishing scene.
Oh, yes.
the shirtless. Let's show off how buff. I mean, I was actually impressed. Billy Crystal was in great shape, which it's not a thing that I would ever sort of associate with Billy Crystal.
Yeah, he really is, and that is a funny scene.
Am I roboting
God
again?
damn it, is it me? No, you're not.
Okay, all right. Yeah, and that's when the Michael McDonald song was playing. So that's when I suddenly realized, okay, this is something I can associate myself with, because I was still trying to learn this movie. But then, yeah, after we get the fishing thing, we get Bikini Girl montage, and then like on their little mopeds and just the fun montage. We're having fun.
Okay, now you're roboting.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
We've had some issues lately with this damn stream. I can't wait to see what happens tonight. So where did he leave off? We had the fun montage, and it really is. It looks like Key West looks like a fun place to go. They show them on the mopeds, and to Scribe's point earlier about women being disposable in this movie, they show them a couple of different times. They like go behind cars and stuff, and when they come out, they're always with a different woman on the back of the moped.
Testing.
I hear you.
Okay, we'll see for how long. This is getting really annoying.
Yeah.
Okay, so then they go to a bar and they debate about buying the bar.
Mm-hmm. Oh God, are you talking? I
Hello?
can't hear you.
No, I wasn't
Okay, were
talking. I
you
was
saying
waiting for you to
anything?
say something. No, I wasn't saying
Oh,
anything. I was
thank
waiting
God.
for you. You know this movie better than I do. You're gonna have to take the lead on some of this stuff because it's like, okay, we're at the bar.
Yeah. Basically, what happens is Danny convinces Ray to give up being a cop and come down to Key West and become bar owners,
With the $40,000.
with the promise that they will eventually get robbed so that they can shoot at people again. Still, that's true, and there is part of Ray's $40,000 or Danny's $40,000, but Ray also takes out a loan for it, which still doesn't seem like quite enough to buy a bar in Key West.
Yeah, and this is and of any point in the movie, the outfits they are wearing when they go to the bank are the gayest fucking things.
Yes.
I mean, I can't believe that this was seen as somehow masculine even in 1986, but holy shit.
Not only are they wearing short shorts, they're wearing roller skates.
And crop tops, and
Yes.
it's just, it's so bad. So bad. Anyway.
So they come back to Chicago and they decide they're putting in their 2 weeks notice or their month's notice or whatever cops have to give. Yeah. I forget. I think it's a month. And the captain's like, why? You can't do this. Yeah. Basically trying to convince them to stay being cops. And they're like, no, sorry, man, we're going to retire. We're going to live the good life. And then the captain says the one thing that'll get to him. Mm-hmm. Julio is back on the streets.
He made bail.
Which is odd because he not only do they have him on a wire confessing to killing a cop, they have 2 cops he tried to kill and 2 other cops who witnessed it. There's no way he should have ever. And Snake is dead. There is no way he should have ever gotten back on the street.
No, but okay.
Not even in Chicago.
Oh, now you're roboting again.
God damn it.
Okay, I can't tell who's having the problem. Am I coming through okay?
You're fine.
Okay, you sound okay now, but you were like, you cut out there for a second. Boy, this is... Okay, so anyway, they decide that because Gonzalez is out on bail, they can't quite retire yet, so they have to wrap up this one sort of loose end before they decide to take off. So then there's a scene in the locker room where Danny decides he's going to put on a vest, because now they're like paranoid. Before they were all like happy-go-lucky. Now they're paranoid about something happening on the job because that'll, ruin their ability to leave and go have their bar in their dream down in Key West. Hello?
They decided to be careful.
Hello?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you just fine.
Okay, because anytime there's a moment of silence now, I'm not sure what's going on.
Yeah, me too.
So,
but yeah,
Danny puts on a vet.
The reason he does that is because the captain tells him that he's seen this before. When people have decided they're going to retire, they get careful, and that gets them killed.
Right.
The implication being the reason these 2 have never gotten killed, even though we've already seen they should have died at least twice, is because they're not careful. They just go by the sweet seat of their pants. And they decide to be careful, and Billy Crystal gets a bulletproof vest, which this is an interesting scene and a sign of the times. Everybody's basically making fun of him.
Yeah, it's seen as weakness or something. Yeah.
Yeah, they're making fun of him for it.
Yeah.
And nowadays it's like required.
Yeah, it's part and parcel with everything. And then another weird thing happens is that Danny drops his gun. It goes off in the middle of the locker room, and then Ray's like, "I better get a vest too."
Yes.
Like, okay, so now all of a sudden, and this is where I guess the title makes sense to the whole situation, because now they're running scared. Mm-hmm. Because they're like, oh, we have this out that we can go to Key West, but we can't risk anything bad happening, even though we've been acting like complete lunatics up to this point.
And here's where I'm going to get a little hazy. I watched part of the movie this morning, but I got interrupted. So the rest of this is entirely from memory.
Okay, well, I've got notes, so I can.
The next scene, you have to help me out here.
Okay, they go to Julio Gonzalez's old apartment.
Oh my God!
Or apartment that he's known to. Yeah, the little kid with the middle finger. So they go to this old apartment, and there's a sort of a middle-aged Latina sort of at the door, and she's all like yelling at them and saying, "Oh, leave me alone, and you don't have to be here." And there's this little kid behind her that keeps moving in and out of sight. Billy Crystal's talking to the lady. Gregory Hines is standing back watching this kid and trying to wave at him. And the kid just flips him off and then like wiggles his arm around with his middle finger out and just making fun of him the whole time.
And they finally stop talking to the lady. The door's shut and Billy's getting ready to walk away. And Craig's like, wait 1 second. He knocks on the door. The little kid answers and he gives him both fingers. Oh, yeah. It is one of my favorite scenes from any movie ever. It is the one part that Lady Monkey will laugh at every time we watch the movie.
Yeah, that was really good. Then they go outside to find their car has been spray painted with undercover cop car or something.
Yes. It says undercover cop car.
Undercover cop car. In big yellow letters.
So they decide to go get a new car. And they go get Julio's car, which is in the impound.
Well, no, they find Julio's car, and then so when they caught the kids with the spray painting their car, they confiscate the spray paint. They find Julio's car, and I believe Gregory Hines takes the yellow spray paint and makes a fake tow-away zone on the curb, and then has his car towed.
Yep, and then they go take it and drive it around, and several people notice the car and think it's Julio.
Mm-hmm. And then the phone rings. The car phone rings, and it's Julio.
Oh yeah. Again, I don't remember the particulars of this conversation.
Okay, so yeah, Julio calls on this car phone, and the car phone is the biggest 1980s brick cell phone you could ever imagine, which is hilarious in its own way. And Julio's yelling at Gregory Hines. We don't actually hear Julio, but Billy Crystal's like, "Oh, tell him I say hi. Tell him I say hi."
Yes.
There's going back and forth, and finally there's an agreement that they're going to bring the car to where he is, like his apartment or something. And so, if I remember correctly, so they go to this apartment building, and they're going to go try to arrest Julio, and they bust into this apartment, and there's these guys there. Or sorry, no, hold on. They oh God, what am I trying to remember here? I had my notes for this, and suddenly let's see. No, that happened later. What the hell? So he's with Julio's with his girlfriend. He doesn't have any pants. Yeah, he doesn't have any pants, and the little kid's there too.
Yeah, he ends up getting away by he's running around with no pants on because he was in the middle of having sex with her. And the way he gets away is by holding a gun on a woman who comes out of an apartment.
Yeah, he takes a hostage, and then they chase him, and then he's holding a woman. He's holding a woman hostage, and then he tells them, Danny and Ray, to give him their pants.
Yes.
And so Billy Crystal takes off his pants and throws them, and they miss, and they go straight down the stairwell. So Gregory Hines takes off his pants and makes the correct throw. And then they're chasing him in their long johns outside and trying to shoot at him as he drives away.
And there's another great scene here because before they went in the building, they called for backup, something they never do.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they get outside, they're standing there in their underwear, like the entire police force shows up.
Right.
And Billy Crystal was like, "I said one car." And they said, "Well, you never called for backup before, so we figured it was something really big."
Serious, yeah. So, and then we have another odd. Right after that, after this, where Julio gets away, Gregory Hines, Ray, hello,
I'm here.
Hello. Okay, I'm hearing some weird noise.
Hello.
I don't know what that was. Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear just fine.
Okay. So then we cut to Ray on a bus going to find Mary Ann, who we haven't seen since the beginning of the movie, and he goes up to her address, and at the door is a guy. And he's just like, "Oh, I'm here for Mary Ann. She's got some parking tickets or something." And the guy goes away, brings her out, and she's like, "Are you here to ruin my life?" And he says, "No, you're doing that all by yourself." Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, so she's cheating on her boyfriend with Gregory Hines. He knows that he doesn't care. She doesn't care. And then they go off together. I'm just like, what is going on here?
Yeah. The women in this movie are over the top bad. They just are.
Yeah. And so they go to a birthday party for Danny. It just happens to be his birthday.
Yep.
And then there's when the people in the bar start singing "Happy Birthday," it is the worst canned pre-recorded music ever. I mean, it's like they took some like stock recording of people singing "Happy Birthday" and just overlaid it onto the scene. It is so bad.
Yeah.
But what are you gonna do?
80s movie.
Yeah. So the ex-wife is there, Marianne is there, Danny and Ray are there, and they're just kind of having a little birthday party. Nothing really happens here. Nothing about the story is propelled. No new information is given. Just that for a lady who's about to get married to a dentist, the ex-wife is sure hanging out with Danny a lot. So what are you gonna do about that? Alone exactly.
With Danny.
So then we have some interactions with Danny and Ray with their replacements. And their replacements, because the captain has said, okay, well, if you guys are retiring, you have to train your replacements. And your replacements are going to be the undercover cops from the previous sting operation on the freighter. One of whom is Stephen Bauer, the first time I'd ever seen him with long hair. And Stephen Bauer was in Scarface. He played Tony Montana's best friend, who I forget his name right now, but you've seen him all over the place elsewise. He was in Breaking Bad in one of the, I think the 4th season. Really good actor. But yeah, so they're going to train the replacements, and so there's a little interaction with them. And they had taken, Danny and Ray had taken the spray painted car to the the motor pool, and they said, hey, "Can you fix this up?" And the guy's like, "Yeah." So they come back. This was earlier, but then they come back and now they have a bulletproof taxi cab.
Well, he tells them that they want a car that nobody's going to know is a cop, that just blends in.
Right.
And so he makes them a taxi cab, which actually makes a lot of sense.
It makes some sense, but I'm like, okay, so it's a bulletproof taxi cab, police car, undercover. I was just so convoluted. Just for a second, I had images of the RV from hell from Tango and Cash, just for a second.
Yes.
But so they get in their new car and they get a tip that they can go to this old hotel to find Gonzalez. And they go there and there's an apartment full of goons with guns. And there's this gigantic shootout.
Yep.
Now there's a Mexican standoff for a couple minutes there where Billy Crystal, everybody's holding guns on each other. And Billy Crystal does, I think is the line that I remember from the previews or something. He holds a gun up to a guy's nose and says, "You have the right to remain dead. You have the right to a coroner." And so somehow Billy Crystal, so they're in a room with like 5 guys. Billy Crystal holding a gun to one guy somehow intimidates all the others to drop their guns. I don't know how. That's just how it happens. So they all drop their guns. They start to handcuff these guys. And then this kid who had been watching things starts to run away to go warn somebody or something. And they chase after him, and all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose, and it's a gunfight between all these guys. And we suddenly have our biggest body count of the movie so far. And then in the middle of it all, the undercover cops, the replacements, show up, and Billy Crystal gets shot by one of them.
Yes.
And then he's like, I'm hit. And Ray comes over and he's checking him out. He's like, if I don't make it, go to Florida without me. And he says, "No, man, you're going to be fine." He says, no, tell me that you go to Florida without me. Okay, I'll go to Florida without me. You go to Florida without me? it's like, oh, man, that was funny. Yeah, so let's see.
Real quick, for me, that part is it's what makes this movie so good. Their chemistry, I cannot stress this enough. The chemistry between these two makes this movie.
Yes, it's probably the one thing that kind of holds together some of these more ridiculous scenes. Because so they end up killing like 5 bad guys, but one of the guys that doesn't get killed is somebody that it's like a confidential informant of theirs from the past. And so Danny and Ray take him aside to muscle him on information on where Julio is or what's going on. And they just walk away from a apartment building they just shot up, and people are dead, whatever, super cop movie. And the CI tells them about some shipment that's taking place at the airport. And they're the only ones that know this at this point. Ray and Danny are the only ones that know about this secret super shipment thing that's coming in at the airport. So Danny and Ray rush to the airport in their cab. Somehow, Heckle and Jekyll, the replacement cops, already found out, and the entire police force is already there to meet the plane.
Yes.
It's just like, okay, just all of a sudden, all right.
Well, it's one of those things. It doesn't make a lot of sense if you put too much thought into it.
I know.
But the idea is that these replacements are showing them up, which
Right.
drives them crazy.
Right. So they get there and they're told that they seized $3 million worth of cocaine. But in short order, they kind of figure out it was a decoy, which is convoluted as hell, because they see Julio at the airport looking all calm and everything, especially for somebody who just had all of his drugs seized. And so Danny and Ray kind of come to the conclusion of, okay, that's a decoy shipment. The real thing must be with Julio, because Julio's getting into a car with, or he's at the airport with a priest and a nun.
Yes.
And so Julio, I think he steals a car or something. No, he gets into the car and drives off, leaving the priest and the nun behind. And then Danny and Ray get the priest and nun to their cab, and then they drive off. Figures like, oh, you want to ride to follow? Yeah, follow that car. They don't know that they're cops, so the priest and nun get in the back of the cab, and they're chasing Julio. And now we get the greatest car chase you've ever seen in an action comedy for 1986.
Across the L tracks.
Yes, they're driving on the tracks. It was so weird.
It was great, and they have an argument about which rail not to hit.
Yeah, so they don't get electrocuted, and the priest and the nun in the back going like, "Oh my
god!" So yeah, then the next scene we see, because they don't catch Julio. Julio.
No,
escapes.
They have this long car chase on the train tracks, dodging trains and everything, and then Julio escapes just as the train comes and smashes his car, but he gets away.
Yes.
And then they take the priest and the nun to the station to interrogate them, and they have a whole bunch of trinkets with them and all this other stuff. And they open them up, and there's little baggies of stuff in there. They open those up, and they're bags of sand. So now Ray and Danny think that they've been had a second time, except that apparently the pottery that these guys had with them turns out to be cocaine.
Yes, they an ingenious way to bring it into the country.
Yeah, and but it's very quick, and if you're not paying attention, you will not understand what happened. And because that happened to me, because I was like, I looked down for a second, making a note on my paper when I was watching this, and I looked back up, and suddenly they're like, he's like tasting stuff, and he's like, aha, and I'm like, wait, I thought it was sand. I had to rewind to go back, like, oh, okay, so is that the $3 million? Because that's not a lot of product.
Really wasn't much. But now Julio's actually in hiding.
Right.
They've got him dead to rights this time. They have him with the drugs. They have everything on him.
Mm-hmm.
So we move on to. Is this the scene where they arrest her boyfriend, Marianne's boyfriend?
No. So they go to a tattoo parlor. Yeah, no, Marion's boyfriend is later. They go to a tattoo parlor to find that same confidential informant that got the information on the airplane shipment. And then they rough him up for some more information. And then they get back into the taxi, and all of a sudden this garbage truck shows up and lifts them up into the air.
Yes.
Getting ready to dump them into a garbage truck. And they're being held suspended up in the air in this taxi. And Julio is there. And he tries to effectively bribe them to stop doing what they're doing, because that makes sense, and they refuse, of course. And then the CI shows up, and it's revealed that the CI ratted them out about where they were going to be and everything. That's why Julio's there. And the CI was driving the garbage truck. Somehow he got a garbage truck, and so they dump them into the crusher of the garbage truck, and it starts being crushed. But they're stopped in the middle of it, and Danny and Ray escape, and the garbage truck and everything are taken to the impound, where then they steal Julio's car again because it had been impounded.
Right.
Yeah. So now they've got Julio's Mercedes, and oh no, sorry, this is where they were driving around in the Mercedes, and the car phone happens. Sorry, I got completely mixed up. Yeah, them driving around and everybody recognizing the Mercedes and everything. This happens now, and then Julio's pissed about the car being stolen from them. Then they get Mary Ann's boyfriend arrested as a ruse.
Yeah, so Gregory can tap her again.
Yeah, so in the middle of this, we got this international drug dealer who wants us dead at this point. We've stolen his car. Gregory Hines wants to get with his lying, cheating girlfriend for some reason. So they arrest her boyfriend on a technicality or something in order to get her alone with Gregory Hines. We never see the boyfriend again. And then we cut to Danny and Anna having a fight in Danny's apartment.
Yes.
About Danny's his childishness or their relationship and all this other kind of stuff. It's meant to be dramatic and everything. And it's not a bad scene acted wise, but given her attitude, at least how it came across to me earlier in the movie when she was bragging about the dentist and then suddenly goes to his birthday party alone, very confusing, very, very confusing dynamic we're supposed to be getting from this, at least as I saw it.
And I don't disagree with you. I'm falling back on what I said before, and I want to wait till the end of the movie to talk about it more.
Okay.
So from there, Anna leaves Billy's apartment and is basically immediately kidnapped by Julio.
Yep.
Who calls Billy Crystal and tells him that if you want to see her again, you need to bring me my shipment.
Right, which turned
because that's going to happen. The police are going to turn over $30 million in coke over. Yeah.
Well, it turns out that was apparently 20 kilograms. Somehow they hid 20 kilograms of cocaine in that fake pottery. Okay, and now it's in packaged form. It's no longer pottery. They've somehow transformed it into the actual package you would see in your average action movie.
Yeah.
But this is where we see the motorcycle come into play, because Gregory Hines and Billy Crystal take the motorcycle down to the station to get the 20 keys of coke from the property room.
And then we see them at the bar they've been at so often in the movie, and they brought in their two replacements to help them out because everybody loves Anna.
These guys have no idea who she is. They've never met her.
No, yeah, don't care.
And they're sitting in this bar with civilians around, and they're loading up Uzis.
Yes.
I mean, they're loading up Uzis in the middle of a bar. The other two cops show up. I just, oh God.
And you remember, they have just stolen 20 keys of coke from the police property room. They're sitting in a bar loading up Uzis.
Yeah, and then here's the thing also, because this is where the movie starts to fall apart, at least logically, of course, not that it happened a little bit before. They contact Julio and they arrange. It was either Danny or Ray, I believe it was Danny. Danny arranges for the meetup to happen at a government building. Right, he's the one that sets the place, and then they go to the government building. It's between the time that they say that and they get there, it's like one cut, basically. But in between that time, Julio and his goons have gone to the government building, waylaid all of the guards there, taken all of their uniforms, put them on themselves, and are now set up around the building like enemies in a video game, waiting for these guys to show up with the 20 keys of coke.
But here comes my favorite 80s action scene in this movie. Because Billy goes in the front door because he's supposed to come alone.
Yes.
And how does Gregory Hines get in the building?
He tries to scale the fucking building.
He scales this fucking 30-story building, climbs a fucking glass building, and lowers himself in with...
Yeah, he uses window washer gear to try to get himself up the... he repels himself up the building, basically, trying to get in ahead of time. It's so ridiculous.
Yeah. It's retarded, but it makes for a great action sequence. This is where the movie fell apart for me, was the end, because it's an 80s movie. So what has to happen? All of the bad guys have to die.
Yeah, there's this giant shootout.
Even ones you've never seen before.
Julio has all these goons. He's got like an army of guys that have stolen these security guards' outfits, and they're all over the place, and it's just shooting. Anna's being held in one elevator, and then Danny gets trapped in the accompanying elevator on the same track, and then they're in the same place, and he's still got the cocaine on him. But it's at that point that Julio decides to shoot at Danny, who has the cocaine on him, trapped in an elevator. Cocaine back, if you shoot the guy that's got it, you're going to hit the bags. What the fuck are you doing? I was just, So then he drops the coke. Danny just drops the coke out of the elevator and falls all the way down to the bottom of the building and just smashes on the floor, and it's all just dust and it's all over the place. Anna jumps from one elevator to the other into Danny's arms, and they chase Julio, who gets shot, but then he doesn't die, but then he gets shot again, and then he dies.
Yeah, you got to have that Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees moment.
And then Annie, I do it again. Dana or Annie, it's one of the two. Danny and Anna kiss. We freeze frame, and then credits roll.
Well, they show the two of them get back together, and first we have Billy Crystal and Gregory Hines ask their two replacements if they want to buy a bar, letting us know that they're not giving up being cops. But then the two, Anna and Danny, have their kiss, and Gregory Hines asks her, "What about the dentist?" And she says, "Who?" He goes, "Right." And so, this is the part that makes me think the whole thing was just something she made up to try. Yes, she just wanted his attention. She wanted him to show some kind of emotion towards her.
Yeah, that's what I thought too at the end of the movie. Like there never was just like but the thing is, the way the actress, or the way it came across that first time that she mentions the dentist in the movie, it just baffles me. It just baffles me.
You're not wrong. You're not. Like I said, I don't think it's acted very well, and it might just be the writing for this shit.
Mm-hmm. But even if you accept the fact that she was doing it just to make him jealous, okay, let's say the actress had done it perfectly and everything else. Mm-hmm. She's a lying bitch. I mean,
I don't disagree there. But again, we had the same kind of thing with the wife in The Last Boy Scout. I mean, she went even further. She actually fucked another dude. Yeah. So I mean,
well, his friend is at least somebody that whatever.
80s movie. That's what I'm going with.
I know. It's just, like I said, there's certain plot elements that I just could not get past. Even with allowing for the fact that this is an 80s movie and it's meant to be silly. But that was the other thing I wanted to talk about. It was just the shift in tone, because in one instance you see these cops being really goofy and joking around and everything, and the next people are dying, and then we have some kind of dramatic argument between ex-husband and ex-wife, and then we have a giant bloodbath. There were points at which I couldn't quite wrap my head around. Is this supposed to be funny, or is this a crime movie? Because there's a lot of blood and guts. It's very confusing. The tone wasn't really maintained in different scenes from one to the other.
Well, I think you had that a lot. I mean, again, I think the shootout at the end is just way over the top.
Yes.
Even compared to the other two shootings we've actually seen so far.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. But if you look at a movie like, say, Beverly Hills Cop,
yes,
you have the very violent scene in the very beginning, where we see Eddie Murphy's friend just get popped in the back of the head. I actually had trouble watching that as a kid. And then for the rest of the movie, it's just silliness until you get to the end where there's a fucking bloodbath. There was this theme of these kind of movies in the 80s where you had to have this bloodbath at the end.
Well, there is one thing that this movie lacks that is common amongst all other movies pretty much like it, and that is there was never a giant explosion.
No, there wasn't.
There was car crashes and there were shootouts, but there was never a giant explosion of anything. The closest you got was the car getting hit by the train at the train station. But other than that, but there wasn't even an explosion. It was just the car getting crushed. But yeah, there was never a giant explosion. There was never any sense that, oh, this is the end of the world kind of thing, except that the stakes between the beginning of the movie and the giant catastrophe at the end were just so imbalanced. Like, oh my God. But I was also kind of disappointed that they decided, oh, we're not going to retire now. It's like, well, that why not? You should. What?
Because they love the job.
Well, I know, but it seemed like you watch those scenes where they're doing the montage and everything, and they're skating around in their crop tops. I just thought, why wouldn't you want to go to Key West? There's bikini girls all over the place, and you guys don't care about monogamy. It's just like,
well, oh, see, you're missing it. He does care about monogamy because he's back with his woman.
Yeah, but for how long? Because she's 7 years old in mentality. I just anyway. Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the movie. I enjoyed particular parts of the movie. Some of the plot elements that I used to care about Anna, I didn't care about Anna.
I
why
didn't
Mary Ann was even part of the plot.
I didn't care about Anna at all. You're breaking up real bad.
Bad. Shit. Okay, bye. I'll come back.
As I was saying, I didn't care about Anna at all. She almost felt like a tacked on character, which I'll repeat to Scribbles here in a moment. But it just, for the rest of the movie, everything except for that very end made sense for me. But Anna just never did. I get what they were trying to do there, but like I said, she felt like they tacked her on as an afterthought. Like,
testing.
Okay, you sound better.
Okay.
What I was just telling the audience is I feel like Anna felt tacked on.
Well, Mary Ann felt more tacked on than Anna.
Well, Mary Ann, I don't have as big a problem with because she's just a little piece of ass that he's getting on the side here and there for fun.
I guess.
Where Anna was supposed to be this major person in Billy's life. And
yeah, they didn't do that at all. They didn't sell that.
Yeah, they didn't. She was just like, okay, here she is again. Okay, here she is again.
Yeah, she did nothing to make herself endearing at all. I mean, or at least I should say, well, the writing or whatever. There was no scene at which I thought, okay, this is a woman that actually loves this guy, and there's no scene where I thought that Danny actually really still loved her, because he wasn't pining for. I mean, if they had gone down to Key West, he had met this blonde girl that tried to come on to him, and he had sort of like shied away, and he was still wearing his wedding ring or something. I could buy that. That would at least sell it a little bit more. But there was nothing about what Danny was doing throughout the entire film up to that point at the end where I thought she's that vital. I mean, yes, she is a person and her life is in danger and obviously everything else. I mean, that sure makes sense, but that she would be, aside from that simple thing, there's never any reason that I was led to believe that Danny actually cared about her as much as we're supposed to think he did by the end of the movie.
No, Gregory Hines seems more like he cares.
Yeah. So like Gregory Hines and Cher should have got together.
It almost seems
that's
like
what should happen in the sequel.
Yeah, it almost seems like he should have to convince Danny that they should save her.
Right. It's like, I'm not going to save that bitch.
but
who can have her?
Itself, and again, I don't have a problem with the ending because so many 80s movies did this. If you look at the end of Lethal Weapon, it is absolutely absurd.
Yes.
They have a car flipped over that blows up because of a hand grenade that catches on fire. And then the street fight in Murtaugh's front yard. So yes. I can forgive that because that's what all 80s action movies built up to, was some ridiculous end.
Mm-hmm.
But for the rest of the movie, I still just love the interaction between Billy Crystal and Gregory Hines. Again, I cannot state how great those two were together.
Yeah, and it
is a
yeah. Go ahead.
It's a tragedy of cinema that those two never worked together again on a comedy.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised because I thought, the dynamic they had, it kind of reminded me of a more modernized version. I don't know, a bit more contemporary version of the relationship between Gene Wilder and who I suddenly forget the name of because my brain just went out. Richard Pryor.
Richard Pryor? Yeah.
Yeah, those two guys, because they did lots of movies together, some better than others. But yeah, I mean, it's really weird. I mean, maybe not a sequel. Okay, maybe there's no sequel material there, but at least something together. But I'm curious why that never happened, because it's not like those guys. I'm about, I guess, but Yeah, but I mean, it made a lot of money for the time. almost $39 million. I mean, all things considered, I'm surprised there wasn't a sequel, or at least those two didn't get together again to do it, because it seemed like it was a profitable endeavor.
The other thing I will say is that this movie is full of little jokes if you pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
If you go back to the funeral scene, Snake is there, and he kind of hits on Billy Crystal's wife a little bit, and
Yeah.
Billy Crystal punches him in the nuts.
Yeah.
And if you're not watching, you'll miss it. It happens that fast, and he hits him a couple of times right there.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of that in this movie, where there's these very brief, sometimes non-verbal little gags.
Yeah,
and they're all over the place. Sometimes it's wordplay, sometimes it's little things you have to watch in the background. This is one of those movies that you really do need to watch more than once to appreciate it as much as it's sort of like Ghostbusters in a way, you don't get it all until you've like digested it. So yeah, I noticed that too when I started skimming through it the second time.
Yeah, there's so many of them, and there's even ones that when I was watching today, I caught. It was like I remembered it, but had forgot it. As soon as I saw it again, it's like, oh yes,
Mm-hmm.
I remember. I remember the first time I saw that. From my perspective, if you enjoy these kind of movies, this is definitely one to watch. It is absolutely dated. Anna is absolutely useless.
Marianne isn't much. Yeah.
Women are throwaways, which is
yes,
sign of the times. But I love the movie. I still do.
Yeah. So I was thinking, since we both have it, you want to try doing Under Siege next, or do you have something else in mind?
Oh, sure. Under Siege sounds fine. I haven't seen it. This is going to be like watching it for the first time, because I saw it once a long time ago.
Yeah, I haven't. I've seen it several times, but the last time I saw it had to be 20 some odd more years ago. So it's been a long. It'll practically be the first time for me. I remember I have very specific scenes in my head, like Erica Eleniak showing up and the knife fight between Steven Seagal and Tommy Lee Jones and everything, and some cool things like that. But yeah, this will be a good one. So, is there anything else? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I did want to. Did you notice that the little Chinese guy from Lethal Weapon and from Die Hard?
Yep,
he showed up in this movie for like 10 seconds.
For 10 seconds, yeah, he was one of the thugs at the freighter standoff in the red lights. And he was there, and then he disappeared. I don't even know. I can't even remember if we see him get shot or arrested or anything. I think he just kind of showed up for 3 seconds and poof.
That dude was in every movie like this. I swear to God.
What wasn't? Am I misremembering that he was in Tango and Cash for 5 minutes?
He was in Tango and Cash.
Yeah. That guy was all over the place. Man, there's some people you just recognize, like Chin Guy.
Yes.
From Tango and Cash. He always played the heavy and everything. But was there anything else we wanted to cover about this ahead of time, or?
Nope. That pretty much sums it up. Again, just guys, if you enjoy these kind of movies, definitely check this one out. And
as far as I know, this is the only action movie that Billy Crystal's ever done.
As far as I know, yeah.
I mean, City Slickers, you might be able to make some argument for in some scenes, but overall, I think, yeah. I mean, Gregory Hines did a lot of dramatic work, in addition to this, before and after. But yeah, a very kind of I mean, all things considered, kind of an odd movie for the two of them, and an artifact of where cinema was going in the early '80s, and really sets the tone for practically every buddy cop movie that came after. So,
well,
definitely see it if you haven't already.
One thing I do want to throw in there: this movie should not have worked at all.
Yeah.
Gregory Hines is not known as a comedic actor. He's a dramatic actor. He's a dancer. He's a classically trained stage performer. But when you hear his name, you don't immediately think slapstick. You don't think humor. And
I think ketchup.
He pulled it nice. He pulled it off so well. And again, if for no other reason, watch this for the chemistry between him and Billy Crystal, because it is fucking awesome. And I don't know that I've seen chemistry that good in a movie since. I really don't. I can't think of anything where they hit off that well.
I could probably top you with something in the back of my mind. I won't try to think of it now, but we can talk about that another time, because I'm pretty sure there are things that have happened since. I mean, just while we're here, you didn't think that the dynamic between Mel Gibson and Danny Glover didn't work?
It's not that I don't think it didn't work. It's that I don't think it worked as well as this. And part of that is what you mentioned at the beginning. This is the only one of these movies we've ever seen, or at least that we've covered, where they're friendly from the beginning.
From the beginning. Okay. And now you might be right there that it's rare that we see something like this where there's an established, because Tango and Cash, they were rivals, and Lethal Weapon, we have the old cop versus the crazy cop, and so on and so on. You're probably right. I'd have to search my mind to try to think of a movie like this where we start out with them already having an established relationship, that they're already on good terms, and they don't really deviate from center for the entire film like this one. So you might be right.
Well, it actually comes off like these two have been partners for 10, 15 years.
Yes.
And that is we saw in The Last Boy Scout how hard it is. Damon Wayans obviously was not really comfortable in the first part of that movie.
No, he wasn't.
When it came to the middle, he finally hit his stride, and that's where the movie really gels. This one, I mean, right out of the gate, those two are perfect.
And the cops are coming for me right now.
But yeah, with that, unless you have anything else to add, I think we can wrap it up there.
No, that's pretty good. But I mean, yeah, thanks for choosing this one, because it's one of those things where I should have seen this, decades ago, but it just never occurred to me to go do it, and I'm glad I did it for no other reason than I have the references in my head for the things that I'll see later on, because trust me, the elements in this movie are all present in the movies that came after and are being repeated as we speak.
Yeah. Real quick, Matt Brown asked what our next flashback review will be. We're going to be doing, you said you want to do Under Siege next, right?
Under Siege. Not Under Siege 2 Dark Territory. Under Siege 2 Dark Territory, I don't have any interest in seeing, because Eric Bogosian, as good an actor as he is, wasn't much of a bad guy in that movie.
Yeah, so for the next one, guys, we'll be moving off of the buddy cops. We'll come back to them eventually, I'm sure. But this one would be fun for me, because, like I said, I haven't seen it since I first watched it when it came out on video, however long ago that was.
Oh, good. It'll be fresh for both of us.
Indeed. All right, guys. So that is going to wrap this up. We will see you tonight at 9 o'clock we're on my channel tonight, right?
Yes, we are.
Yeah. So we'll see you for the Lords of the Night stream at 9. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.